This is an orthokeratology case where the patient has been wearing lenses for a couple of years and then all of a sudden is showing some overcorrection. Looking at the maps, everything looks really well centered, and if we bring up the lens, we can see that nothing looks too unusual here. With the lens on, the patient was refracting at about a plus 150, so that's not too hard to explain. We do have an over-refraction of minus 1.25 here, and we would expect this lens to refract plano over the patient. So because we have an additional minus 1.25 on the front surface, plus 150 in the refraction with the lens on wouldn't be too unusual. What is a little bit more unusual is that this patient with the lens off refracts at about a plus 2. And so if we look at the baseline refractive error, it's about a minus 2.25. And if we go back to the difference map, we'll switch to axial mode so we can look at refractive power changes, and we can see at this apex we're getting about a 4 diopter flattening. So it is approximately double the patient's refractive error. And so this part kind of correlates too. So the first thing I would do is create a few more of these difference maps. This is with the most recent topography, but I would create a few more with older topographies, maybe based on past visits where the patient showed closer to a plano refraction with the lenses off, and see if you're still getting the same appearance. If not, then that could be an indication that perhaps the lens has warped somehow, or maybe the lens got accidentally switched, and so it's not in that case, it's just a bad lens problem, not necessarily a lens that needs to be modified. If the past topographies do all create this same sort of difference map, then it's possible that the patient's been overcorrected by a couple diopters all this time and just never really manifested it in past refractions, either due to some spasm or just the multifocal effect of myopic ortho-K. So if the topographies have always looked like this and now we want to decrease, the way to do that is simply to steepen the base curve. And that's pretty easily done. If we want to target the full 2 diopters, right now we can use the power as our gauge. We're at 0, so if we steepen the base curve 2 diopters, then we would expect the new lens power to be about minus 2. And I'll do this in 8x mode. We're going to click down at the red dot. And we're pretty close. And now we're about 2 diopters steeper than the prior lens. You can see by looking up here that Wave doesn't even consider this an ortho-K lens anymore. Basically, this lens really is not that much flatter than the patient's K readings. And so that is a possibility. Perhaps the patient has become a little bit less myopic over time, and maybe just a couple of different factors coming together at the same time, resulting in a case where we really don't need as much treatment as before. But again, the first thing I would do is look at past topographies to see if there are any noticeable changes over time. Because this is a freeform lens, one thing I would strongly recommend doing is going into 25% mode at this point and going through the different meridians. You can see that we're not quite at 2, and this will be in 1x because this will be just fine-tuning. And if we click through, we can see that there's just a little bit of variability that we can fine-tune. 25% mode, 1x, and just to make everything as close to 2 as possible. Now, once you're done, if you want to get rid of that refraction with the lens on, with that plus 150 refraction with the lens on, then you can go in here and just set the refraction to 0. If you like the prism in there for orientation of lens, you can still leave the prism in there even though there's a 0 overfraction. You hit continue, and you'll notice that your lens power changes quite a bit, but this should give you closer to a plane overfraction with the lens on.